Hi, today I'm here with Kristina Vukas from 23 Agency, and we're going to be talking about influencer marketing. My first question for you is about the agency. How did you get started?
Well, hello first. I got started, I crossed over from the entertainment industry into marketing. I realized I have worked and I knew a lot of influencers. I was one myself. And when I started working with clients, I actually realized I really, really liked it. It was so much fun. And then clients started coming basically, and then I just had to register an agency because work just started to snowball. And that was it.
That's one of the nicest way to start a company is to have to start a company because you have so much work. So that's great. So I noticed that you work with a range of different kinds of influencers. Can you talk a little bit about that range and about why you work with the kinds of people you work with?
Yeah, sure. So it started with beauty and fashion influencers and lifestyle influencers. It was just brands that were I worked with before and brands that were close to me. So I actually was on both sides of the influencer game. And I felt that there was just some things that I could fix there, probably within the influencer client relationship as well. I think every agency has kind of this goal to fix this communication. And yeah, so basically that's how it started. And then the range of influencers in Croatia just grew. And now it's basically so the ones that I mentioned, and also more with sports and sports that food supplements, and anything that's super commercial basically goes through the agency.
Excellent. And you talked about the growth in the different types of influencer marketing that are out there. There are some people who would say that influencer marketing has kind of picked up speed and gotten too big too fast. How do you respond to that? Is there any truth to it?
I'm not really sure if that's 100% accurate because I think influencer marketing has been here for longer than people have kind of started talking about it. So it's been here for a while. It's just a super trendy topic right now. And then everything in digital marketing and in the digital age just picks up speed. So I think we're kind of getting used to that, especially the millennial generation.
When you work with a client, say, do you often find that they know enough about influencer marketing, or do you have to do some education on the brand side or even with influencers to get everybody sort of up to speed on your strategies and your goals?
Well, the influencers I work with are typically already have been doing it for a while, so I don't think I've ever worked with an influencer that has less than 50,000 followers on Instagram or other social media platforms. So they very much know what they're doing and what they're capable of. And the good thing is that they keep growing, so we keep each other in the loop with trends and everything new that's happening. So that's really cool. With clients, it really there's no one answer to it because I think every client is different, and my approach to every client, of course, is then based on their needs and their information. So some of them will definitely know what they need, and that's exactly what they're gonna come into the agency asking for. And then others kind of want to test it sometimes at the same time. So we'll do a test campaign to see if they got what they wanted out of it, or will fit the influencer perfectly to the brand, but at the same time, the brand needs to know if that's going to be their way of doing marketing at all.
Let's talk about authenticity. One of the things that can happen over time as someone becomes more known as an influencer is as their audience starts to understand that yes, they do get paid to promote brands and products. How do they retain authenticity, or does it even matter if they let the world know that they get paid to promote things?
Today they actually have to. So on Instagram and on YouTube especially, they have to say that it's an ad. So at the end of every promoted post on Instagram, they have to put a hashtag ad. They don't all still do it. But I think the rules are going to be much more strict very soon. And in a YouTube video, the first 30 seconds, they have to say if this video is sponsored or not. So their audience will know right away typically. However, authenticity is just something that they build, I think, because it's different. Like before we had celebrities, and if we wanted to promote something, we'll put it on a celebrity and everyone's going to see it and kind of want it at the same time. But now it's different because influencers are just normal people like everyone else. A lot of them will share their bad days. Now it's very trendy to share unphotoshopped or unedited photos as well, just kind of showing real life. So I think that's how they build trust with their followers, and also that's how, loyalty. So when they do promote something, if their followers already trust them, even if they're growing, their followers will definitely take their hint before someone else's.
Right now, it seems like a lot of brands work with established influencers who come with a large audience. But there's also some brands sometimes work with a more homegrown influencer. They might start with someone and either it's someone in-house or someone who they work with early on and they grow with them. Are there pros and cons to that kind of approach, or how do you see working with homegrown versus going outside and finding somebody with a big following?
It really depends on the situation. I think every brand is different and every client is very different. I think homegrown, as you say, influencers are really cool, but the company or the brand already has to see potential in them. So they would take them for a reason. If, let's say, the influencer already had a certain reach that was good for the brand or a certain demographic of followers, then that's perfect. Then they can just sign an exclusive deal, help them grow, and then have like a long-term contract thing. However, if this brand hasn't done this yet, then I would suggest making real bonds with influencers. So it's not always about, even though we work with influencers that already have a big following, it's not always about that. It's basically about building trust and then having this influencer really like your brand as well, and then just being loyal to it, because then it's a long-term relationship. It's more campaigns, it's more promotions for everyone. In the long run, it's cheaper as well. So I think that's the future. So I think that's a really good advice for some brands that are looking to do this.
And in terms of that influencer really, sort of loving and living the brand, have you seen experiences where that kind of evolves over time too, or do they grow more in love with the brand and does it help? Or on the flip side, has anybody ever said, you know what, maybe our relationship is not the same as it used to be? Do you see that ever?
I think it has happened. I personally have not witnessed it. But I mean, things do happen, and influencers sometimes decide that they might not want to do this anymore, or they want to go a little bit more private. So yeah, it can definitely happen, but typically it's a very happy relationship.
And I'm actually even thinking about the other side where, an influencer, started off with, working with a brand and ended up in the fashion world, say designing a line or working with them on a future line. Do you see that as a trend that's going to continue, or do you think that kind of only happens once in a blue moon?
You mean the homegrown tied to the brand thing?
Yes.
Well, I think since the whole field is growing, there might be more of that for sure, but I can't say yet.
There were some stats that I saw out there that I think could be useful for us to talk a little bit about. I'm just checking my notes here. That 60% of millennials purchases are made because a consumer had seen the product in social media or on blog posts. So as a person who works with influencers, brands can create blog posts, brands can create social media. Is there a difference? What are the pros and cons of brands creating versus working with an influencer, and how that affects the consumer?
I mean, they definitely do create a lot of these blog posts and promoted posts. So yeah, that's their job at the same time. But I think I think consumers like it more today because it's not an advertisement. So we're so used to like billboards and TV and Facebook adverts and all this. So I think if we're searching for a product and then we want to go find some information about it, get some reviews and stuff like that, because I don't think anyone buys stuff without reviews anymore, do they?
Not me.
Yeah, so I mean that's what, and then you kind of see the info on the blog post, and I think a lot of brands today are also trying to be honest. Obviously it's very sellable, their posts, and the posts that the influencer is going to write. However, I think definitely honesty and native is winning today more than ever.
There was another statistic that I saw out there that I just thought you could comment on. Speaking of millennials again, the amount of time millennials spent on social media, in some places it's up to 9 hours a day. You think about a day having 24 hours and you have to sleep at some time. So do you think the role of the influencer in people's lives outside of just marketing and the brands is changing, growing? Is it, how is that amount of time that people are spending in social media affecting the world of influencers?
I think it's really good for them. The only thing that might not be the best, I mean, time-wise, I think it's good. Also because I think it's challenging because they need to create a lot of content. So let's say a YouTuber, they produce, they write, they're creatives. Everything has to be perfect for them to continue doing this, and especially if they're doing it for a living. So it's a very serious job. I think the amount of people on the internet right now is a plus, definitely. However, the only thing that, I mean, not the only thing, but one of the things that can actually be a downside, like a con, is definitely that these platforms change all the time. So let's say Instagram changes algorithms every X period of time. YouTube also has new changes right now. So all these platforms might just change, and then they just have to really pick up trends super quickly. Otherwise, they're not going to be there.
So as an influencer, there's definitely there's a lot of work involved sort of behind the scenes. Yeah. How do influencers manage that? Like you said, they have to keep up with, not just their subject matter, but also the technical side of running essentially small businesses. Is that somewhere where an agency works with them to help them sort of fill gaps, or how do you see them as influencers staying up to date and up to speed on the latest trends?
Well, it's hard. It's time consuming. I actually know some influencers that I've worked with have, they always have like a few people helping them. So sometimes it's like their mothers, it's Instagram boyfriends, so just friends. I know an influencer here that she's really big, but she has like 3 people working on her account. It's mostly family. But I think without them, she wouldn't be able to do it. So I think some of them can grow into bigger businesses. Like, let's say YouTubers today, they, like in America, you probably know this, they grow into like book deals and movie deals and record deals. So they're actually becoming the celebrities of the 21st century, which is really cool. So it's definitely growing into a business, like a bigger business for some.
How do you see, you brought up book deals and movie deals and the sort of the other media, do you think influencers should, as they are starting off, be thinking about those other media at the beginning and sort of plotting and planning to sort of expand their reach throughout movies, TV, etc.? Or does it make more sense to sort of start focused on one thing and just be, say, focused on Instagram and work your way out from there?
Both, to be honest. I think if you should have a long-term strategy, because it's so much, as we mentioned, so much time and energy invested, that you should definitely have a long-term strategy if you're an influencer. And then it depends on the platform as well. So if they're just staying on, let's say, Instagram, I think YouTubers are more likely to, at least in the US, get all these deals as mentioned. However, a lot of them do both. So That's obviously a strategy. But I think in the beginning, it's very important to focus on interaction and creating some really cool content and having fun with it at the same time. Because if it's like stressful and you're like, oh, I need to post, then it's like, it's not it. And then followers can also feel that. So if it's fun, if it's quality, and if it's growing, if there's good interaction, then it makes sense, and then focus on that for a while. But at the same time, have a long-term strategy and know where you want to end up.
And same kind of question on the client side. As a brand, should you be sort of thinking, if you put yourself in the brand shoes, you be looking long term at, okay, this person, may have a book deal coming up, and maybe I should get on this train now while it's still in the station, or should they be focusing on people who maybe are more narrowly sliced?
It really depends. It really depends on the client and also what's happening with their brand or product at the moment, what they want to promote as well. So sometimes it's really good to catch that wave, as you mentioned, like the book deal, okay, if it aligns, if the topic of the book aligns, or any type of content aligns with the whole thing, then perfect. But if it doesn't, probably rather not.
What are some of the things that businesses who work with influencers wish that influencers knew better or were better at?
I think it's always the communication thing. So I think brands want to know right away the ROI and what's going to happen after these influencers promote their brand. And on the other hand, I think influencers always want to know exactly what the brand wants or what the client wants. So it's definitely it's a communication thing. And then sometimes clients can want results very quickly that the influencer knows that cannot deliver from one post or let's say one gig or engagement. So I think to have realistic expectations would definitely be a big thing. And also just understanding each other. A lot of the time, influencers are not really sure how the brand wants to be presented. So let's say we always do, we shoot more content, more types, and then send it to the client so it can be approved before, so everything has to be pre-approved before the campaign starts. And I think just these things are really important because it makes the client and then influencer feel safe. So once the campaign starts, then everybody knows exactly where they're going and what's going to happen.
And so is that kind of the same on the other side? So, do you think clients wish that influencers communicated better as well? And is that really the sort of central piece, or is there something else that they kind of wish, man, if they could just deliver X?
Well, I definitely think it's always the client has these goals and they want them to be fulfilled, and then the influencer is always aware that sometimes it might take another path, or it might take more promotion or bigger budget. So I think it's always the small things. But yeah, it can definitely be communicated in a different way.
Well, I think we communicated really well here, and I think our time might be up. But I thank you for sitting down and talking with me.
Thank you, it was so much fun.